Continuing Project Soul Catcher by Robert Duncan. Skipping page 106. We left off at 105, or no, 106. There's just so many acronyms that from medicine, biological chemistry, Department of Physics. I would have to stop and look up so many medical acronyms and other words that are not just general knowledge. So I thought I'd skip to page 107, Spooking to Death. Inducing prolonged and intense stress on the target can cause heart failure and strokes. The techniques range from a runaway adrenal process to inducing heart arrhythmias and vascular contractions to raise blood pressure to unsafe levels in order to find a defect and weakness. Even during the free torture Bush eras, torture doctrines required a physician present. When purposefully torturing one to death, the rule of law doesn't apply. Unfortunately, federal rule of law is simply don't get caught, deny everything, and dead men don't talk. Killing someone with just information, cellular communication, and neurological weapons can be more difficult than one might suspect. It can take a long time in many cases, but the combined probabilities of the thousands of different techniques add up. This is why they are spending so much money and human resources on perfecting this weapon. As an interesting side note, many of the behavioral modification to death techniques can be defeated by their faith in religion, also known as, this is me, the God gene, which they have formed a weapon against and are trying to use against people. However, religion can be used against the target too, using the voice of God and omnipotent techniques. It can't stop the torture, but it can stop the quick kills and use of the human as an assassin for political and military reasons. Unfortunately, Muslim jihads are easily used by these techniques, while Christians have some defenses unless they are extremists. Page 108. Okay. I doubt you'll be able to see this with the crummy potato camera. Spooking also involves many psychological techniques, such as stalking and computer tampering. The CIA has been improving their creative ways to scare, control, and torture in physical renditions using barking, growling dogs, sexual humiliation, and playing on every fear, such as suffocation or threats against family, are traditionally used by the United States government. If one studies crime families, one can understand how the CIA, some other federal government agencies, and financial institutions act as a self-protection racket to hide their crimes. In remote renditions, different methods are employed. Threats to torture and kill the person and their family are still used, but they have to be creative since the physical threats must be implied. One interesting computer I'm on some antibiotics after the eye surgery. One interesting computer virus developed by the CIA, DoD, NSA can be inserted by the Communication Warfare Unit using the 802.11 wireless protocols. Footnote 24 below. See. To any vulnerable computer in the world using satellites and HAARP, HAARP is the acronym, like global communication systems, specialized viruses cannot be easily found by the average person using virus checking software. Virus checking software only looks for the most common viruses and those that spread maliciously that are reported. The CIA's viruses, in parentheses, are not meant to spread from computer to computer and only attack the target machine, then purge themselves usually so they can leave no trace. They are meant to be psycho-interactive and spread from the computer through the visual or audio ports of the human into the psychology and possibly thereby have that person spread the fear to other humans. These techniques are still classified in the general category of mind viruses and psychotronic viruses, despite the way the terror and fear is induced into the culture. See psychoterrorism. Let me catch my breath. An example of one such specialized malware, spooking virus, was captured by a government whistleblower. Graphic cards have their own processors and can run instruction sets. Many hackers figured out that they could insert their own code to be run in the graphics processors and not be detected by standard virus checkers. This semi-famous satanic spooking virus is used effectively to scare the hell out of the target. It only works if the conditions are right. Its mode of attack is into the human psyche using a computer with a video camera on it pointed at the target. The idea is to make the target see an image of him or herself as if they were possessed by a demon. Now this is it's not conjecture. You can verify what I'm reading about. This is accomplished by altering the aperture exposure and contrast parameters. By creating an overexposure in digital cameras, movement showing teeth and eyes come out very spooky like alien lizards. The eyes look like slits due to the bleeding of the white into the dark space, and the teeth become sharp and pointed. See a screen snapshot below of this technique. Completion, page 109. Okay. There we go. Sorry to tell you people that claim that lizards, yes, there's some stuff from the spiritual realm going on, but they also, these agencies, we'll call them institutions. These institutions employ techniques similar, but you have to go by a case by case. I would say, otherwise you're not being objective. So yeah, that's in their bag of tricks. Resuming reading Project Soul Catcher, page 110. In addition to the scary images of the target, the overexposed backgrounds turn white. Using face identification algorithms, the target's rough image is put into the foreground while mixing in horrific images of people getting their heads cut off or something similarly horrific in the background. Since this uses a significant amount of computing power in real time, the frame rate tends to be fairly slow, around 7 frames per second. There is a variation on this spooking virus where the virus will find pictures most recently viewed on the target's hardware drive, use face identification, then alter the picture with demonic red eyes that are quite subtle. Face identification is imperfect, so the technique doesn't always work. Included on the Teacher's Edition is some source code of another computer virus that is meant to drive the target crazy and decreases productivity by up to 20% using small nuances, like switching keystrokes on their computer every so often and making them believe the computer is breaking down. This virus is also classified under economics warfare. The discussion question 1.16. Knowing some of the techniques of stress induction and torture used by the CIA, come up with a list of 20 human fears and stresses. Then think of creative ways of how to realize them in remote renditions, knowing the power of this technology. Disrupting human networks. One of the reasons to spook a target is to find out what their family and friendship networks look like. People run for help to people they trust. This might be useful in routing out a terrorist network, for example. As for government control, it is useful to disrupt groups and movements from organizing and forming or protesting. The Department of Defense had several contracts approved for lifelong studies of relationships. How could the DoD study the formation of relationships without spying on American citizens? Creating network connections through coincidences by design is an important way to order society. Yeah, control freaks. They have an agenda. Oh, sorry, paraphrasing, adding. The tricks to disrupt relationships can be physical, legal, and emotional. Even in the non-canonical Bible text, this technique is spoken of. God commanded Gabriel to trick the people into fighting amongst themselves. Gabriel was to go to the biters, to the reprobates, to the children of fornication, the offspring of the watchers, from among men, then bring forth and excite them against one another. Excite. That's what it says, E-X-C-I-T-E. I think it means incite them against one another. Incite them. Maybe that's a word I don't know. Let them perish under mutual slaughter, for length of days shall not be theirs. Enoch 10:13. And so Gabriel instigated wars among the giants, the children of the watchers.